It's believed the three had been celebrating 69-year-old Pavel Gombar's birthday yesterday morning. The party ended with a triple shooting and a fire in the inner Newcastle flat off Nesca Parade. Pavel Gombar, who lived in the flat, had a gunshot wound to the head and was taken to the John Hunter Hospital. 53-year-old Annika Kulevska of Mayfield died of multiple gun wounds. Annika's boyfriend, 55-year-old Alexander Radozovic, had also been shot. He ran from the flat to get help at a nearby doctor's surgery. Today, Annika's sister said she had no idea what may have triggered the shooting, saying they had all been good friends.
He had no family, no one. They go and visit him, and when they had something cooking, they asked him to come for tea or lunch.
Pavel Gombar is tonight under police guard in John Hunter Hospital's intensive care unit. A bullet was removed from his head during surgery this morning. He's in a stable condition and police are waiting to interview him. Alexander Radozovic underwent surgery last night. The 55-year-old victim was today released from hospital and interviewed at length at Newcastle Police Station.
At this stage, inquiries are continuing. All witnesses are being interviewed. Persons involved who are wounded, we are endeavouring to interview those persons sometime today or in the near future.
Police say until all the interviews are completed, no charges can be laid. Jane Anderson, NBN News.
The first competition game for the year is only 3 weeks away and the Breakers are still working hard on fitness. As part of their new style, Coach Jim Foley is taking his team to the soccer public. Today the workout moved to Madawi as part of the Junior Soccer Presentation Day, and there were plenty of starry-eyed youngsters watching every move.
I don't think it does them any harm to have someone to identify to and aspire to being perhaps good enough one day.
The Breakers' first pre-season game will be next Wednesday night against Central Coast. It's the one chance of the year for the young up-and-comers to impress the night selection panel. Up for grabs is 30 places in the Harold Matthews, SG Ball and Jersey Flegg summer training sides. With so much at stake, the temptation is there for players to hog the ball, but it was anything but one-up football.
We emphasise to the players, we speak to the players before they go out, that it's important to share the workload, and it's not always the person who has the football in their hands the most and who comes up with the biggest tackles who may impress.
Besides the local hopefuls, players from Dubbo, Byron Bay and Cooma also tried out. One player sure to be on the shortlist though is 17-year-old Nathaniel Blackwell from Inverell. Besides a handy turn of speed, he grabbed a swag of tries in just 2 games.
Pressure on the ball all the time, so let's move the ball.
This afternoon, for the first time since he was injured, Terry Dozier trained with the team for a full session. Determined to make it back into the starting lineup, Dozier didn't hold back. But Dozier says while he's been given the all clear, his lower back still feels tight.
Well, it is going to take a little while to get loose, but also I'm just trying to do only what I'm capable of doing and not do anything that may hurt the back, so I'm just taking it easy.
Man Mountain Paul Kuiper was also putting in the hard work this afternoon. In his first game back after injury, Kuiper was the side's standout player, something he wants to continue.
I came out and I was ready to play. I'd done a lot of work on my leg and done a lot of running in the water, so I felt kind of fit.
After last weekend's lacklustre performance, coach Tom Wisman made sure all the players were paying for it in sweat. He wants to impress upon the team that this week's game against Giants is the last chance to get back into rhythm before the playoffs.
That if we get a win now going into the playoffs, get the fifth spot, get the favourable draw that gives you in the playoffs, we want to make something happen here in the playoffs. So it's an important first step for us now.
Extra seating is being organised for Saturday night's game. With 4 days to go, it's already a near sellout.
Many university students start their working life in debt to the federal government. In debt because they've had to pay more than $2,000 a year to attend university. The HECS fees, as they're known, can be paid up front, attracting a 25% discount. Often, though, students defer payment until they're working. From next year, the rate of repayment will increase. That's just one of a number of changes the government is introducing.
They want you pay double HECS if you want to undertake a second degree.
Under the new arrangement, economics student James Roth will have to pay twice as much to do a second undergraduate degree.
I think that it's unfair that you're being penalised for trying to get ahead.
Students who fail repeatedly will also be penalised. Organisers of today's meeting believe the extra fee will be backdated, affecting people like third-year commerce student Derek Bromley. He's failed a number of subjects.
I've got one more subject to do to finish off my degree. I'm doing that now. I'm going to get through that and then I'm going to get slugged more at the end of my degree.
To show their contempt for the changes, there was a symbolic burning of HECS notices. However, a spokesperson for Education Minister Kim Beazley says the extra fees have been introduced to create more university places for school leavers, rather than for people who are failing uni or want to do a second undergraduate degree. Jane Anderson, NBN News.
The dispute began earlier this year over plans for a $15 million redevelopment for the Blue Lagoon Beach Resort. Bateau Bay residents objected to the proposal because they claim it will affect their access to the beach. Developer Kelvest wants to put cabins on the foreshore and upgrade amenities. Residents, the company and Wyong Council today began presenting their case to Justice Perlman in the Land and Environment Court. The hearing will continue tomorrow, with further submissions to be presented on the development.
Arranged by the community radio station Great Lakes FM and the Great Lakes Advocate, the festivities are a prelude to a giant pyjama party, timed for the announcement in Monte Carlo. It's a non-profit event at the Great Lakes Aquatic and Leisure Centre to give the whole community a chance to gather in celebration or commiseration, whatever the case might be. But there's no doubting the confidence of the Foster townfolk. And no doubting their enthusiasm either, with the post office, shops and the main street itself decked out in green and gold Olympic rings.
Council's 300 staff will be taught to use the new computer system here at a special training centre off King Street. Director of Corporate Services Michael McMahon today signed the $80,000 training deal with Hugh Mackenzie of Foresight's Computer Services. Over the next 6 months, the company will hold 700 training courses, bringing the new system online.
Drag down, let it up, and you see where you've created a series, a numeric series.
I understand it's the best of breed, and Council, as part of its best practice program, is looking to get the best tools and the best technology into the organisation so that we can provide the best job we can to our community.
130 council PCs have been upgraded and 150 new computers bought. They'll be linked under the new system, allowing easy access to information and records. According to Mr McMahon, it's all part of council's commitment to improving customer service.
In future, we hope to, for example, improve the timing of issuing development applications and building applications. They'll all be able to be turned around much faster now with this new technology.
After 4 years of research around the country, Commissioner Burdekin is about to table a mental illness report. It's a damning indictment of the treatment Australia affords its special needs people, the elderly, disabled, Aboriginals, isolated and people of non-English backgrounds. He was addressing about 500 social workers who form the front line of mental health care, with resources allocated by the government, which Mr Burdekin says are often misplaced and never enough. Cost-saving policies of the 1980s were aimed at deinstitutionalising mental health care, but research has now found that there was no safety net for sufferers, many adrift in the community. The upgraded Cooks Hill Fire Station is the administrative headquarters for an area from the Hawkesbury to the Queensland border. It's taken 2 years and nearly $2 million to transform what was a 19th century station into one of the most up-to-date in the state. Phone and computer links receive and send fire messages to dozens of smaller stations throughout the coast and inland, all 000 calls coming through Newcastle. The station is the base for a fire salvage unit and breathing apparatus and hazardous materials equipment.
The government's direction has indicated that the New South Wales Fire Brigade is going to be the combatant authority for hazardous spillages.
Space has also been set aside for a collection of memorabilia honouring the region's firefighters. The station will be officially opened on October the 7th by the Minister for Emergency Services, Terry Griffiths. Andrew Lobb, NBN News.
Since 1991, the building industry has operated under the site allowance system, whereby workers were paid an extra hourly fee by developers in exchange for guarantee against industrial action. However, Robert Fuller from the Master Builders Association believes this policy is uncompetitive and unattractive to contractors. 3 months ago, the association announced a plan to replace site allowances with enterprise agreements. Since then, Mr Fuller has been negotiating enterprise agreement terms with building unions in the Industrial Commission. Today, the two bodies committed themselves to a statement of intent, which details a framework designed to encourage the adoption of enterprise agreements between unions, workers and companies.
If we can get enterprise agreements going, either on a company basis or on a project basis, it means that we can be more productive and hopefully win more jobs for the hunter.
The statement of intent will now be discussed by individual building unions. Mr Fuller hopes to gain official approval from the unions and ultimately the Industrial Commission in 4 weeks. From then on, any building organisation, be it a 5 or 50 employee operation, will be able to register itself as an enterprise agreement company. However, the unions will still retain the right through the Industrial Commission to go for site allowances. Catherine Lamond, NBN News.
Along with the hot weather comes the seasonal threat of bushfire. Brigades have been kept busy throughout the Hunter with dozens of calls to bush alight. Stations turned out to 14 separate fires in the 2 hours after midday. Firefighters are still carrying out fires around Morisset and Warners Bay. Units have been called to some areas repeatedly and have reported seeing children fleeing the scene. At Hexham, abandoned coal workings have been smouldering for 2 days, despite efforts to douse them with thousands of litres of water. Earth-moving equipment has been called in to break up the mass. Andrew Lobb, NBN News.
A joint venture group, Brown and Hatton and Danpork, want to expand a piggery near Scone from 2,500 to more than 10,000 pigs. Part of the proposal is a meat works, killing up to 600,000 pigs each year for the export market. The idea has been shot down by neighbouring farmers who are worried about runoff. Danpork says it's open to suggestions.
We've amended our proposal to try and accommodate concerns and hopefully get a good result for everyone.
Day one of a 4-day inquiry set up by Planning Minister Webster, and the joint venture has admitted the existing piggery does have some adverse environmental problems, but says new technology would address that. Meanwhile, Scone Council has made its position clear, telling the inquiry it will not supply town water to the expansion proposal.
We're not prepared to have the ratepayer subsidising this operation by even as much as 1 cent.
Consistent water supplies are a vital part of the proposal. The joint venturers say they will fight Council's veto. The piggery has had national attention, with Prime Minister Keating a part owner. The PM stating he's proud to be associated with a company pushing for export growth. The Prime Minister is keen for the project to go ahead, but he won't be involved in the inquiry. He's leaving that to the company's directors. On Thursday, locals objecting to the proposal will present video evidence questioning the expansion on environmental grounds. A report from the inquiry will go to the Minister before a decision is made. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
When 8 Maitland councillors raised their hands in support of Bob G, it marked the end of the Share the Mayor deal between independents after only 2 years. Councillor Beryl Humble, next in line for the chair, fell 1 vote short. Despite defeat, she assured the Mayor of her support. Back in the mayoral chair today, Councillor G denied claims the election had divided Maitland Council.
Absolutely not. I must say that behind the scenes and after the meeting last night, many of my opponents, if I can call them that, people who didn't support me last night, came up to me, fellow independents, and said, hey, the vote has been taken, we want to get behind you for the common good of the city.
As a priority, the Mayor is now planning a major conference on the proposed Rutherford wool plant.
And I will be convening in the not too distant future a major meeting here of the major wool brokers in Australia, those who are the main players here on the East Coast particularly, the Wool Consortium and both state and federal government members locally, and we will be putting before the brokers the opportunities that are offered here.
As to the share the Mayor packed, Councillor G wouldn't be drawn on the future of the agreement.
After leaving Sydney at 7 o'clock this morning, the Harley herd hauled into Newcastle. In tow, 45 bikers with television celebrities riding pillion. That number is expected to swell to several hundred bikes by the time the trek finishes on Queensland's Sunshine Coast on Friday. The convoy will make numerous stops along the way. Their first major one was at Charlestown Square. The aim to use the personality's profile to help raise money for cerebral palsy sufferers.
I've already sold 2 raffle tickets, and in fact you have to buy one off me now after doing this.
Okay. The bike bash is the brainchild of Bradley Wolfe, a terminal cerebral palsy sufferer who wanted to help others.
This means the world to Bradley's dream coming true, not for Bradley himself but for all the other children out there who equipment doesn't get donated to them.
All money raised will go to the Silence Isn't Golden Fund, a foundation established by Bradley with help from friends like Angry Anderson.
He's got strength that you and I don't realise that we have. He knows it because he's got it, because he's had to develop that.
On hand at Charlestown were the Lions Club to make a donation and a huge birthday cake to celebrate Bradley's 16th birthday.
The convoy will travel up the coast, stopping at Coffs Harbour tonight and in Brisbane on Thursday night. Their final stop is Umundi on the Queensland Sunshine Coast. Over the weekend they'll hold fundraising concerts there. They hope to raise around $2 million.
That money will be used to buy therapeutic equipment, including muscle-stimulating machines, which 360 child sufferers in New South Wales and Queensland need but can't afford. Catherine Lamond, NBN News.
Clear skies and clean water today, but at the EPA's head office in Sydney, there's a case that paints a different picture of the Newcastle Steelworks. Detailed investigations into 2 incidents this year, one involving the release of a large cloud of orange tar-smelling smog over the city, the other the discharge of 50,000 litres of oily water into the Hunter River, have led the EPA to begin prosecutions over breaches of the Clean Air and Clean Waters Acts. Mr Kitchen, what is BHP's response at this stage to the EPA proceeding with the prosecution?
We're yet to determine our legal position.
The charges of failing to properly store materials stem from problems the Steelworks was having with its tar plant. In one case, tar residues mixed with cooling water and were released with steam into the atmosphere. In the other, oil-contaminated water overflowed a storage tank.
We always regret anything that's going to affect the local community. You know, I'm part of the local community, so are the other employees here. And prior to these incidents occurring, we were already undertaking upgrades to what's called the tar plant. That's still underway and it's expected to be completed by the end of next month.
Do you think that will help temper the outcome of the proceedings?
That's not a question I can really answer. I think what it will do, though, is it'll lessen the chance of similar sort of incidents occurring again.
Each of the charges carries a $125,000 maximum penalty. 2 years ago, the State Pollution Control Commission fined the BHP with a $3,000 slap on the wrist for 7 environmental offences. The matter comes before the Land and Environment Court on the 24th of October for a hearing date to be set. Andrew Lobb, NBN News. RAAF radar control reporting units work in the dark but see everything. From dimly lit operations rooms, controllers are the eyes of fighter pilots, seeing threats still well over the horizon, spotting a stealthy foe sneaking up from behind. Australia's military air radar system has served well enough for the past 20 years, relying on ground stations scattered around the country to relay signals. But now $36 million is to be spent upgrading bases at Tyndall in the Northern Territory and Williamtown.
Unlike we have had in the past where we've had single sensor information, with this new equipment we'll be able to combine radars from all over the east coast of Australia and the Northern Territory into one single picture. That'll give us much more control than we've ever had in the past.
Australia's air defence could be commanded from either base. If one was knocked out, the other would take over, or the system could be operated from a mobile platform such as a warship or early warning aircraft. The equipment is compatible with that of allied forces such as the United States Air Force.
While that wasn't one of our design specifications, that is the case. We will be able to take information from US sensors, be they on the sea or in the air, and integrate them into our picture.
In the 16-year-old girls singles, Kate Wyatt in the green shirt made her trip from South Australia worthwhile, proving too strong for top seed Kim Penny from Toukley. Kate defeated Kim 6-2, 6-4. In the 14-year singles, it was an all-Gosford final. Christy Gearside in the white skirt and Christy Herring went stroke for stroke in the first set. Gearside clinched the first in a tiebreaker and wrapped up the second set 6-1. In the 17 years boys final, the tempo stepped up, the players going blow for blow. Left-handed Kyron Pinter from Newcastle was up against top seed Novak Nash from Taree. Novak, ranked in the top 300 in the world, was too strong. Nash won the match in straight sets. On the next court, the competition was just as fierce in the boys' 12 years final. Daniel Farrer from Sydney in the black pants was up 5-1 in the first set tiebreaker and looked to have things wrapped up. However, Toukley's Luke McDonald, just back after 8 months off with glandular fever, had other ideas. He battled on to win 7-6, 6-1. Catherine Lamond, NBN News.
When compulsory inspections of electrical work were abolished last year, it opened the way for the industry's deregulation. In the past, Shortland electricity inspectors carried out testing, but soon the Hunter's 3,000 electrical contractors will have the authority to both test and inspect their own work. A survey of 7,500 jobs showed alarming results. 20% of installations tested were defective, 11% had major safety defects.
Well, it's disappointing. I've got to say that most electrical contractors are doing the right thing and doing a very good job. There are a small percentage that need some further education.
Shortland Electricity says when compared to other authorities, it's harder on safety regulations, but plans to get even tougher on shoddy and potentially dangerous work. In response to the survey, head of the National Electrical Contractors Association today said his organisation had been unfairly attacked. He said while the high number of dangerous defects found was cause for concern, he questioned the method used to determine the results. Shortland Electricity has warned consumers to demand to see inspection certificates from their electrical contractors for any work carried out, domestic or commercial.
Consumers need to be wary and contact Shortland Electricity to make sure they have got a proper inspection certificate.
Melinda Smith, NBN News. Three-day-old Connor may not know it yet, but he's the centre of attention at one of 7 of the Hunters' private hospitals. When mum Tamara booked in for a caesarean delivery, she and partner Gary had little idea their family would enter the history books as the first such delivery at Waratah's Christo Road Private Hospital.
First class, yeah, I couldn't ask for better attention.
Elective caesareans are part of an upgrade and expansion of obstetric services at the hospital. For those with private healthcare cover, it's a comfortable alternative to hospitals in the public system.
They haven't been able to provide some of those services, and we have basically taken up the challenge and have decided to do that.
In response to an overwhelming demand from mothers wanting private care before, during and after birth, Christo Road is waiting on council approval to build a $1 million birthing unit.
It gives mothers a choice, and once they go into labour they can progress to Christo Road, and the child will be delivered here and they'll have their full care.
Melinda Smith, NBN News.
Paramedics arrived on the scene about 9 o'clock last night. The Singleton man had lost control of a Holden sedan while trying to negotiate a sharp left-hand turn on Denman Road near Singleton. The car rolled several times, running off the road. The man was trapped in the car for an hour until help arrived. Remarkably, he sustained only minor injuries. Just a few hours earlier, the rescue chopper was called to the Barrington Tops. Police say the driver lost control of his vehicle on the unsealed Scone Road near Pole Blue camping area. One of the 2 passengers was taken by chopper to the John Hunter with suspected spinal injuries. The driver and other passenger were admitted to Gloucester Hospital overnight and later released.